November 10th Ordinance Committee meeting. Do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
No public comment. We'll go ahead and proceed with the agenda adoption.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve the agenda adoption. All in favor?
Aye.
Tonight's meeting is we are here to consider the modification of the bamboo ordinance, and we've had some issues lately, and become a nuisance in our community. And I'd like to turn it over to our town manager, Mike, to go through.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The current ordinance was adopted in April of, and I know I said, no, I did say April, in April of 2020. It was 2 meetings before I came on board here. Not that it makes any difference. The ordinance is very thorough. In fact, I think Mark and I think that it might be a little too thorough. It has some good points in it, but there's a specific section of it that gets into the weeds, so to speak. And by that I mean, if you go down to section 66-58 here, the duty to contain running bamboo and other invasive species. See, right at the beginning here of section A, except as provided in subsection C of this section, the landowner shall stop it from growing on to an adjacent landowner. Well, when you get down to section C, and I will say that A and B are right from the state code. They're almost word for word from the state code. But when you get down to C, and this was added, I don't know why, it gets into the weeds a little bit, becomes confusing, and it starts to assigning blame and trying to determine where it originated, and if notice is given properly, you're not responsible for it. It's very difficult for me to, and we've had to try to interpret this with some situations we have now. In fact, we have one court case coming up on the 21st based on this ordinance, and we'll see how it plays. But it's very difficult for me to determine from this when someone's responsible and when they're not. If it's not just a clear-cut case of it crossed the line recently, then all of a sudden we get into a who shot John situation where we're not sure when it got there, we're not sure if the property owner gave the proper notice, that if he's not responsible for it, this, that, and the other thing. If you look at the state code, and the state code is down here in red, this is the entire state code. It's pretty short, sweet, to the point. No landowner shall allow running bamboo to grow without proper upkeep and appropriate containment measures, including barriers or trenching. And no landowner shall allow running bamboo to spread from his property to any public right-of-way or adjoining property not owned by the landowner. Doesn't care where it started, what time it got there, or who gave notice that it's not theirs, and this, that, and the other thing. Is if it's there and you let it go on your neighbor's property, it's on you. C is, and also, Mark and I both like section C here in D because it gives some very specific fines for violating the ordinance. Now, I have to tell you, I have not been able to get an opinion on the violations yet, on the fines. I think I know what they mean as far as when it says subsequent violations arising from the same set of operative facts. I think I know what that means, but I'd like to get a clarification from the attorney, and I was not able to get one in time for this meeting. But I think that means each instance is a separate violation. So the other thing that I have to get an opinion from them is the same set of facts within 12 months of the first violation shall not exceed $200, and you can't exceed a total of $3,000 in a 12-month period. But then it says that each separate offense shall be considered, shall constitute a separate offense. Each business day during the same violation is found to have existed shall constitute a separate offense. Does that mean that once we apply a $50 fine, is it another $50 every day up to including $3,000? This I don't know, and I have to admit to you, we have to get some clarification on that. That's very important.
Longevity and such.
Yes. But the first two sections are very clear, reminds me of our pig ordinance, or excuse me, our hog ordinance, in that it's only 9 words. There's two sentences, there's only 9 words. It's very succinct, it's very to the point. And when we went to take that to court, there was no ambiguity. The judge ruled in our favor. It's very clear here, you can't do this. And we won. As I said, Mark and I have been through this several times, and reading this section, section C especially, it's confusing. It gives a lot of wiggle room. It's a he did it kind of thing, and we just think that if we could adopt the state code pretty much as is, or if the ordinance more directly paralleled the state code, then it would be easier to enforce, and also for everybody to understand. So what I've done is I've taken the best parts of the current code and the best parts of the state code and made them conform. And one thing that was good on the ordinance that was adopted is this is a nuisance ordinance. It's under our nuisance section in our code. And you see here it says nuisance declared. It defines the nuisance, why it's in the code, what we're trying to do with this ordinance, what we're trying to accomplish, and that's very good. That plays well in court. Then it defines running bamboo. It gives you the 2 basic paragraphs that the state code does. They're a little embellished, but not much. A landowner on whose property running bamboo or invasive species grows shall not allow the running bamboo or invasive species to spread from his property to any adjoining property not owned by the landowner or within 10 feet of a public right-of-way or public roadway. Now that is not in the state code, but that is in order to maintain the site distances and site triangles. I think that's a very good provision to keep in there, so I kept it in there.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I was mentioning earlier that I actually seen, I'm not sure where it was today, but it was almost like this bamboo forest just come right here about 5 foot from the road, squared off. It's almost perfectly squared off, and I can't remember. I've been so many places today, but I'm trying to retrack and such. But it was, I mean, it was close to, it was about as far as this table from the road.
You saw in my staff report Monday night that we've done some recent cutting back of the right-of-way, and we've cut several pieces of property where bamboo was right up on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And we've cut it back with that side mower we have just to give us some room, because people couldn't walk by that property without walking into the road because bamboo was right up to the pavement. So yeah, it is an issue.
Yeah.
But I thought that would be a good provision to leave in here. I struck the entire section C because we think that's the source of the ambiguity here. I did keep, and one thing that was not in the state code is section 6659, containment measures. I'm a little concerned that if we define the containment measures that we might be liable in the respect that if someone institutes these measures and it's not successful, all of a sudden, and we did what your ordinance said,
Right.
It's not our problem anymore. So, if you wanted to take the containment measures out, we could certainly live with that. And if you go back and look, I think that it says, the state code uses a phrase that says you must take appropriate measures to control it. It does not define those measures. Right. And that may be the way to go here, is just leave it general. Instead of defining what we think is the proper way to do it. In any event, going down to after the containment measures, going down to penalties, that's word for word from the state code. And again, I don't think that either way you interpret this is better than what we have, because what we have right now in our code just says it's a class 4 misdemeanor. So either way you interpret this, whether it's each violation, whether it's violations every day, or whether it's this violation is one, and if it happens again within a year, it's another violation. either way, it's more descriptive and more restrictive than the one we currently have. And I think that'll get folks' attention.
So, like everything else, somebody's got to complain about it.
It's a nuisance, that's correct.
Right. What do you do in the situation of the cemetery where it's getting out of hand?
Well, we have that currently, and the way the town office is handling it is we're acting as the owner of the cemetery, even though we don't currently own it. We're acting as the owner and telling the property owner, adjacent property owner, that you have to take care of this.
Okay.
I don't think anyone can tell us who owns the cemeteries. They haven't so far
Not
come
that
back and
one.
said the town owns it.
Not that one
We got
anyway.
a lot of folks in there,
Yeah,
dating back to great-great-greats.
yeah.
But, yeah, we've, yes, ma'am.
I think I'm almost positive, in the state code, it says municipality can control or have jurisdiction over the cemeteries. It's in the state code.
Well, then we're on solid ground then.
You're on solid ground. I'll bring you
Enforcing
that
the
code
bamboo
in
ordinance.
Monday.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Owens.
But either way you interpret the penalty phase of this, it's better than what we have. So I can get a clarification, but I don't know that that should hold up us doing anything about it. But anything that you don't like or don't understand, or, this is just my suggestion, my interpretation of what it should look like.
I like what you, about the containment,
Yeah,
that it, you gotta
That we keep it general.
keep it general.
don't be too descriptive.
Yeah.
So we can come back here to containment measures and just strike section 6659. If we do that, we'll go back up to,
I mean, you got it in there somewhere though, that it's got, you
Right,
gotta
from the state
contain it.
code.
in the red here is the state code. If you look, no landowner shall allow running bamboo to grow without proper upkeep and appropriate containment measures, including barriers and/or trenching. That's as descriptive as they get. But they say appropriate containment measures. I think that's the
And
opposite
just end
phrase
it
there.
there.
I can use that phrase down here in A and just tack that on to number A here, which corresponds to the state code. And then
Proper and legal.
and then strike this entire, we can strike this entire phrase here. Describing our containment measures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can certainly do that. Strike 6659 and insert the phrase appropriate containment measures, including barriers and trenching, onto section A here. Now, the case that we have pending on the 21st, and I've actually spoke to the gentleman that was served on this and asked him to take appropriate measures, and he said he wasn't going to, and to do what we had to do. I said, okay. It was a courteous exchange, but he said he absolutely was not intending to do anything, and to do what we had to do. I said, okay, we'll do that. But we'll see how this plays out with the judge on the 21st. The aggrieved gentleman, the gentleman who's his neighbor who reported the nuisance, will be at court that day. So we'll have someone testify.
So he's only got basically just one complaint.
Yes, and as you're correct from what you said a while ago, is that our nuisance, if it's in the nuisance section of the code, unless somebody complains about it, we don't typically enforce it. Now, that being said, I can see where if it's a right-of-way thing, if they get within 10 feet of the right-of-way or cemetery, the town will be the complainant.
When is the court date?
21st this month. But we didn't complain to anybody about bamboo on the road, we just cut it. I did have a few people who were upset that we cut their brush back. And we we just, because we did this all back 2 weeks, we cut a lot of things back from right away, and I just told him straight up, I said, if we could have done a better job, I said, but you didn't, so we did,
Yeah.
you know.
There's a lot of bad spots.
Yes,
A lot of bad spots.
right now we have a full-fledged tree in the right of way.
What? Coming out of Anderson Avenue,
No,
you can see it, if I'm up in my truck, you can see over that tree there. Look, but you gotta go like this.
we have one on North Main Street that's right in the right of way that, I'm gonna be courteous and notify the property owner, because it does hang over on his property, but we're gonna notify him that the tree's coming down. Just be forthright above
Yeah.
board.
I would be curious to find out just, you know, on each case. Say for instance, you got property here and you've got bamboo that's gone over, okay? So you've got issues there, you've been warned or somebody's reported that. But you have bamboo that's gonna eventually, maybe 3 or 4 months later, extends on this guy's property over here. I'm talking about the same person. I'm just kind of curious about
Yes.
how you know what I'm saying? Or what I'm trying to say is, you know, is that considered still one incident? You got 2 property owners that might complain, or you might not only have 1, but now that growth is going on somebody else's property.
Hopefully when the neighbor on the left complains, he'll be smart enough to fix the problem on the right too.
Exactly. Exactly. And the way that a non-attorney would read this, it appears to me that if someone complains about it's coming from my neighbor's property on that side of me, and that's what I'm complaining about, then that's one instance with a set of facts. And as long as that condition exists, it's the same set of facts that a nuisance was reported at. Now, if it happens on the other side, that's another set of facts, that's another instance. If this is, if they do something about it, and it will say they cut it back without doing a barrier, then you remove that set of facts, and if it comes over again, that's a whole new instance in my book. But again, I'm not a lawyer.
I would think so.
But,
Because the neighbor on the left ain't necessarily gonna complain about what's going on the right side, just what's affecting him.
right.
What do you need?
Vote. And the motion would be to eliminate section 6659 from the current ordinance. Or actually, the motion would be to adopt the model ordinance as written, with adding the term appropriate measures to section 6658.A, and to remove section 6659 in its entirety.
I make that motion just the way you read it.
I'll second it.
Yes, we got a motion to adopt as written 66.58 and strike 66.59 with that inclusion that you were talking about earlier about
With the appropriate
with the
measures.
period
Yes.
after that. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we have anything else that somebody would like to bring up regarding our ordinance?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Yeah. Do I hear a
Make motion to adjourn.
Have a motion
Second.
And second to adjourn. Thank you all.